morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani, and welcome to the show on this Aloha Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and here we go. Start of the week, a lot to get into on the show today. Yesterday wrapped up spring ball for the University of Hawai'i football team. So we'll get a chance to hear from head coach Timmy Chang and also what QB1 Micah Alihado had to say following yesterday's spring event, and just kind of their overall thoughts on spring ball as they're all wrapped up. And now we look forward to the season. Feels like it's such a long ways away, but it'll probably sneak up on us and get here in no time. Also talk some University of Hawai'i basketball, of course, as the women locked up the top spot for sure alone for the Big West Conference regular season championship. And as they get prepared now this week, don't play until Friday in the semifinals as they get the double bye in the Big West Conference tournament. On the flip side, however, the UH men's basketball team falling to CSUN on Saturday, as we mentioned that Thursday's game against Bakersfield was a win and you're in. And after that, it kind of you had to leave everything up to either beating a team that's more difficult to beat on the road in CSUN. And then since that didn't happen, we were like, well, maybe or prior to that, you could have hoped for potentially Cal Poly to lose at Long Beach, but that didn't happen. And so everything was pretty much on Hawaii beating CSUN, and it didn't happen. So the men's team, their season officially comes to an end, but we'll get to all of that. Look ahead to the week and everything else coming up. Michael Alihado.
Nope.
It's the Filipino thing, I guess. Michael Lasquero will join us in hour number 2. He was out covering the game entirely, the quote game, spring event / practice yesterday. That. So he will kind of give us his takeaways. And, he's been able to go out to a couple of practices since all of the practices during the week were when Paul and I are in studio chatting with all of you guys. So we weren't able to go out to any of the practices. And I was there yesterday for a little bit, but I was kind of texting Michael the whole time because I didn't have my roster or anything. So Michael will give us all his UH football insights coming up in hour number 2. All right, but first things first, it only feels right. I know a lot of you guys that are listening to Sports Talk Radio and are on social media following sports stuff probably already heard the news and saw the news on your local news stations, as well as it was announced yesterday that the legendary broadcaster, my former colleague and someone who was the voice of UH football and UH men's basketball for a very long time, Bobby Curran, has passed away. He passed away yesterday morning, peacefully with his wife, Jo, and his sons, Finn and Max, who were there. And obviously our condolences and aloha goes out to them first and foremost. I know they're a tight-knit family, and I'm going to try to do all this without crying, Paul, so just be ready to chime in.
I'm ready over here. Don't worry.
This has just been like a crazy beginning of the year to start with a lot of the broadcasters and a lot of people that have made Hawaii sports, especially on the radio, at least for me, to just what it is today. Obviously, we know like Don Robs, who we've talked about, and then Lad Panis as well, and then now Bobby Curran, which we were kind of anticipating this to happen. I know he was in hospice care. And it's not finite until it's not final until it is. And that's what yesterday was. And it's kind of all the emotions that we're going through. And for those of you watching on YouTube, at least you'll be able to see this. And then you can watch it on demand as well. Before we get to, I want to show you some photos, but want to first read the official statement from the University of Hawai'i Athletics Department saying, quote, Bobby Curran was a storyteller and magician behind the microphone. This New Yorker quickly adapted himself into the local culture and became a fixture on the airwaves for more than 3 decades. His smooth, colorful voice was synonymous with UH football and basketball. He was the voice of more than 400 football broadcasts, the longest announcer streak in program history, and several hundred more basketball games. He called some of the brightest stars and biggest moments in UH history, including a dozen bowl teams and 4 NCAA tournament basketball teams. Bobby was so much more than just a voice. He was respected by the players and coaches, and most importantly, beloved by his listeners, the fans. Our heartfelt condolences go out to his wife, Jo, and sons, Max and Finn, and the entire current Ohana. Mahalo, Bobby. May you rest in aloha. And that, again, that was the official statement from the University of Hawai'i, as everyone that's followed and listened to UH Sports on the radio, especially, I know a lot of people out there have talked about how they would actually, Bobby and Robert, like peak Bobby was like amazing. Like he was just an incredible, not only play-by-play announcer, but like even like his radio show. I was so fortunate to kind of get started in this industry. Like I was 21 years old, fresh out of college. I think Bobby might have been like the fourth or fifth person I met when I was at the other station, because my first day on the job was at a football game, at a UH football game. So I met Bobby and Robert in the press box, I'm like this young kid. And then, and of course they were always like so nice to me, but like he was just like, he had this crazy, almost like photographic memory, and similar to what we talk about with Don and his memory. But like this guy could, and I think part of it is the New York thing. So he kind of has like that, he already has kind of like that confidence in everything he says, right? Like when he debates, it's like you almost will lose just because his like natural presence and his voice is like, you can't win the debate. He could be completely wrong. Like we could probably debate about soccer that he does not know about, and he will just say like everything that he knows, because the guy got his English degree, so he knows big words too. And it was just so phenomenal to watch, because he could just kind of like go through the newspaper that morning and jump on the show, do a 3-hour show, and you were just intrigued the entire time. Like it was just a talent that I never thought was what it was until, one, I started doing it myself, and two, you just see other people and listen to other people, and you're like, dang, like how did he kind of command that much through the microphone? And I'm talking sometimes, I don't know if this is like the best thing, but sometimes he would like do the show, and you guys on YouTube can watch, he would like have his like feet like up on the counter, but like you wouldn't think that, because he just was naturally like such this amazing like debater. And again, the English degree helped, because he would throw out words. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, so you just feel naturally like peak Bobby was just, I don't know, like if or when somebody will come close, and that's why he could carry that 3-hour show essentially by himself for a very, very long time. And obviously he would do the play-by-play, and then for football and basketball. So the next day he's up like talking about it and dissecting everything, and he was just so good. And then I think the part where I get emotional, and Paul, I was showing you this before we jumped on air, because about a year ago he called his final men's basketball game. And, that's when they kind of honored him. That's the picture from the UH statement that's on there. And I went to find him after the game, give him a lei and stuff. And this was already cool, like a few beverages in. So the video is just so funny, because I'm like, Bobby, you're a legend. And like, you are so like, you welcomed. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get emotional, because I was just talking about how he welcomed me, because we did a show together for a little bit, and he even said, if it were up to me, we would have still been doing that show. And he was just so Okay, take it away, Paul.
I am really, really thankful that I got to meet him in the first place, because that's something that even with Don Robbs and Jim Leahy, like I never got to really meet them while they were still doing their craft. And I got to meet Bobby while, like you mentioned, he was still, and it was in a much lighter way than he had in previous times, but it was always impressive. And he is, as you've laid out beautifully, an incredibly impressive individual. I know that my heart breaks for his family more than anyone else, and that's because I sit here and I think about the amount of time that he shared with a lot of other people that I hope that they feel that they got enough time as well. And it never feels like enough time, but I do hope that they feel really, really thankful for their time as well, because like you mentioned, an incredible human being, an incredibly talented broadcaster, sportscaster, like you mentioned, debater, somebody who could...
It was crazy.
Somebody who could get your emotions fired up, but also not make you overly angry. You know, somebody who you could disagree with and yet still find yourself chatting with. It was impressive, and it sucks. I've said this to you off air multiple times. I've said this to other people. It continues to sting every time we go through one of these, and this is just another example of losing somebody who is so incredibly important to not just the University of Hawai'i, but so many Hawaii fans and people here in the island. So like you've said, like we've said, like so many have said, sending all of our aloha, love, whatever you want to say, to the Curran family, to anyone who knew him, to anybody who enjoyed time listening to or chatting with him. I hope you're able to find a little solace today, yesterday, and going forward, knowing just how awesome a dude this guy was.
Yeah, and thanks for taking it over there, Paul, as I kind of reel back my emotions a little bit. As you guys know, I'm just like this huge softie, and when it comes to these kinds of things, like I'm instantly crying all the time. But I do want to share a couple of photos. This is like the last photo that I took with Bobby. This was actually, no, second to the last photo. The other photo I found when it was his final call for the men's basketball broadcast. But this is one that I took at the Coaches versus Cancer event that he would always host on site. So that was from last year. And again, always so gracious and so kind to me. And, you know, I know he could be rough around the edges sometimes, but he was always very supportive of me doing this like sports talk radio thing. I posted about it on my social media. Like even when I worked for essentially a competing brand, he would always be, and went the same time. Like the show has always been 8 to 9. Now we go 8 to 10. But you guys know it's the same time as Bobby Curran's like final hour of his morning show, and everyone would kind of be like, oh, so you're gonna, you know, compete with Bobby. And I'm like, you know, honestly, I just think Bobby and I were so different in terms of how we talk about sports and our personalities and everything that, you know, he's still gonna continue to do what he did and I do what I do. But every time I'd run into him, he was always like super supportive. Like it was never, I mean, that's what happens when you're great. You're like, he probably looked at me like, yeah, okay, you're like, you can do your own show. Like people are still going to listen to me, which, but he was always, yeah, he was always so supportive of what I was doing. And like he said, if it were up to him, we'd still have our show together. And he was always, he actually, when I was leaving, he was, I don't know if the other people would appreciate this, but he was very excited for me because he knew I should have gotten a lot of opportunities. And he was like, I'm so excited for you that that's what you're going to be able to do, and kind of believed in the talent that I had.
Yeah, I mean, it was never a doubt about that. It's cool when you have people who believe in you that way, and
well, especially when they're legendary.
Well,
right?
I was gonna say when they know their stuff, it means a little extra. Especially when they go to bat for you, and even after they don't have to go to bat for you anymore. So it does, and it would mean a lot to me too. I understand your emotion on that.
All right, to kind of end this topic, I feel like it'll come up. Feel free to text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481, or chime in on the live chat as we are on streaming live on our YouTube channel. But I do want to it's kind of interesting, a full circle moment that, you know, like Bobby's support and everything. But for long-time sports listeners or sports radio listeners, before Hawaii Sports Radio Network kind of came into the KGU AM 760 and took over here with the frequency and stuff, there was like real country for a little bit. But prior to that, it was a sports station. So one of the clips in the Circle of Honor video that was shared, it does have Bobby on the microphone, young Bobby Curran, there it is, with a KGU microphone, because he used to be on these airwaves with KGU, because KGU used to have the University of Hawai'i rights way, way back in the day. I think even before Salem owned the frequency. So we're talking a while ago, and I thought that was kind of a full circle moment where I'm like, wow, that's crazy to think that like Bobby was on KGU and obviously went to KKEA, and then now we're doing the sports thing here as well, and it's just kind of crazy. So I wanted to make sure I shared that a little bit, and it's just, and those of you watching on YouTube, again, it's from the UH Circle of Honor video where I was like, wow, that's so crazy that Bobby Curran there with the KGU, as we have like the KGU kind of thing in back of Paul, where it's just like, that's our station, we're KGU AM. So I just thought that was a wild full circle moment when you think about everything and how sports is now. We're back here on KGU, and seeing that photo, it was pretty cool and pretty special. All right, going to take a break. When we come back, we will start getting into some University of Hawai'i football conversation, of course, and let you hear from what head coach Timmy Chang had to say to wrap up spring ball. And he was also asked about his thoughts on the late and great Bobby Curran. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and hawaiisportsradio.com. And also, of course, Monday, so we are streaming live on our YouTube channel. So hello, and to everybody tuning in and watching and interacting with our live chat. Obviously, our seasoned listener, Caesar, he's always the first one in there to the live chat. Aloha, y'all. He said, loved our interview with Kelsey Imai on Friday. Is she Filipina? Do you know?
You'd know better than I would.
I gotta find out. I don't know. Like, she's a mix. Like, she's a poi dog like me. So that's why I'm like, I gotta go find out just so we have the answer for you, Caesar. And also shout out to the Sports Nuts. Hey, go Bows. Hopefully Wahine get into the dance. Yes, that's of course what we are hoping for. But that was a good commercial break that we had there as I kind of try to wrap up my feelings a little bit for now. We will definitely, if you guys have anything to say about Bobby Curran, if you guys are just hearing the news, then he did pass away yesterday after just a lot of health battles and everything. But I mean, the guy went through a double lung transplant and everything, but was able to
called another game.
Yeah, and he came back to the airwaves. Like, they set up like not a makeshift, but I guess a remote studio in his house so that he was able to return to his morning show. And then also like was still able to call games and whatnot. Had to not go on road trips anymore for obvious reasons, but called his final game, the last men's basketball game last season. And we've just been kind of started the show talking about all of that. Obviously started the show with Ku'ulei. I can't hold our emotions when it comes to that, just because I was so fortunate to work with him for a significant amount of time. You know, like, me being just fresh into this sports radio stuff and to be honest, not knowing who he was until I started there. But you know what? I was a 21-year-old college kid. Like, we don't listen to sports radio at that time. This was before podcasting was cool. So you didn't really listen to people talk about sports. This is when ESPN, like national television, didn't have their talk shows as their kind of main thing, right? Like when I first got into the sports talk. Now it's a huge thing, which we're fortunate that it is, so that it kind of becomes a norm. But at the time, I just wanted to explain that, where it's like people are like, she didn't know who like Bobby was and she got into sports radio. It's a whole thing.
Happens.
It happens. But no, something, of course, Bobby was known for was University of Hawai'i football. It was kind of cool. I wish I took the photo from social media. I was opposite because I was watching the spring game or whatnot from the parking structure. But I know Brian McInnes tweeted a pretty cool picture of a double rainbow, and then Rob DeMello retweeted the double rainbow picture and had a picture of Bobby and Robert. And I'm like, oh gosh, here's the emotions again. Maybe if I can find it during the next break, I can share it with you guys. But I thought that was a pretty surreal moment as well, like the double rainbow over the final day of spring ball for UH football after Bobby Curran had passed away that morning. But yeah, something he was passionate about, obviously UH football. Michael Lasquero was out there covering the couple of hours that we were there. I was there maybe for the tail end to see the kind of the sets that they were running. But of course, Timmy Chang had a chance to address the media, and let's start. This is what he had to say following the spring event and wrapping up spring ball. And here are his initial thoughts from head coach Timmy Chang.
I thought these guys did really good. You know, they, for the most part, you know, stayed healthy, but you know, we were very intentional on what we wanted to do. You know, be disciplined. Unforced errors, limit them. You know, limit the penalties. We'll go back and look at some of the things. It's good to have officials out here as they correct us, but be very intentional on what we need to clean up and get better at. And so I thought there was a lot of good reps, especially the last 4 practices. You know, before the week, I thought we had a lot of good individual and guys understand what we're trying to do, trying to teach these guys in the classroom. You know, just a wide range of coaches talking about, you know, their positions to the whole team, to the group, so they kind of understand the whole game of football. And the more guys we got smarter, I think the better it would be.
As far as just with today and what you've seen overall in the spring, what are some of the key adjustments or the things that you want to see as the team continues to go into the fall?
Yeah, you know, we're banged up on the O-line. I want our O-line to get better. You know, it's one that we don't have depth on when we're banged up. There's 2 starters out right now, but guys got to step up and make plays. You know, and guys got to come in there ready to go. And so I like to see our O-line get better from here all the way to until we play our first game.
And as far as the quarterbacks, what would you say about the quarterback position? How they're doing so far?
Yeah, you know, Luke Weaver coming in from Modesto, I thought it was really good that, you know, he got here. He's learned. I thought he had a really good spring. Really confident in that guy to back up Micah. You know, Micah, you know, he does a lot of great things. And so just continuously to get better with him and making good decisions. So I think even with young J.J. Nelson, you know, he's a freshman, but he understands our offense as well. And so it's a good quarterback room.
Even with the non-live tackling today, it looked like the D was able to force a lot of turnovers. Do you feel better about, you know, what the D was able to do, or do you feel concerned about the offense for those?
Oh, I like that the defense is forcing turnovers. Yeah. For us, it's all emphasis, and so, you know, whether we're emphasizing our offense, if we're turning over the ball when we're on offense, you know, during our offensive period, you know, that's one thing. If the defense is taking the ball away, then during their defensive period, that's a really good thing. And so, you know, we want turnovers. You know, we want the battles to continue to go. But I think for the most part, you know, I thought these guys did a great job out there today.
A lot of variety in the formations and packages, 2 back sets, some tight ends. We saw today it's going to rain in Manoa, so how important is it to kind of have that run personnel and be able to run the football?
I think it's important to be able to run and pass. You know, get guys off the ball, move guys off the ball. it does rain, and the places that we go are not, they're not easy to play at either. So, we have to be able to run the ball and get into some packages where, we can lean on those guys. And so, love to see our O-line get off the ball and those running backs get downhill.
Coach, we lost a big voice today in Bobby Curran, man, who's called many of your games. Yeah, just your thoughts on his passing.
I'm going to miss him. And I know our Hawaii programs, our Hawaii Hana family, we're going to miss him. He's always called my games, and I remember him and Robert Kekala being there, and it's sad. We lost one of our own today.
Coach, what do you make of the progress you guys made from the beginning of last month to today, and what are you hoping to see from now through, I guess, fall camp?
It's an advantage to get done early, and really get stronger and get bigger. We want to make sure that we're able to impose our will on teams, whether we're away or they come inside here. And so we're gonna get bigger, stronger, faster from now all the way to July. The football growth has to continue. Our football knowledge, our fundamentals got to get better out here today, and it was a good starting point, and these guys know what they got to do to reach our goals.
And that was University of Hawai'i football head coach Timmy Chang following the wrap-up of yesterday's spring ball, or the Warrior Hana, and the event that went on yesterday. Shout out to everyone that made it out. It did kind of start to rain towards the end of that, so I know a lot of people kind of took cover or left towards the ending, and don't blame you, because it was a little more than manoa mist. It started off as a little manoa mist, and then after a while it kept coming down on everybody. But no, it was still fun. It was good to see. Got to see a good Micah missile and everything like that. As Timmy had mentioned, that's similar to what's been kind of my worry is the offensive line. Like, we talk about how deep the receiving core is. He made mention of having Luke Weaver there to back up Micah, which Paul and I have talked about extensively, that made us feel really good heading into this season. Now, having a true solid QB2 in there, just not only to kind of push Micah in terms of competition, because, we've kind of said that so many times before, this starting quarterback job is Micah's to lose, regardless, even heading into the fall, but having like a good solid backup in Luke Weaver just kind of gives you a little bit more, he puts you at ease a little bit, where you're not going to have to throw in, Caleb Freeman, who doesn't really have any true experience, or a JJ Nielsen, who doesn't have any experience at the college level either. But having someone like Luke Weaver, who is a top caliber quarterback at the JUCO level, to back up Micah Alihado, makes you feel a little bit better. But then on the flip side, as Timmy mentioned, a little worrisome in terms of the depth at the offensive line, and not just depth, but just the true natural size. A lot of times when we match up against some of the defensive lines of some of these other schools, including in the Mountain West, it's kind of like, whoa, I thought we were a bit bigger than we were. I guess not. So, it was interesting to hear him kind of make note of that, because that was already something that I was thinking when it comes to, when you think about all the different positional groups, if I had to pick one that has been kind of the one that I'm the most worried about, being the offensive line, and because everywhere else you feel like, you lose Cam Stone in the secondary, but at the same time you get, other players back. You get like Verdell back and everything like that. You still have Peter.
Dennis Thurman, who's a former all pro. Pro Bowl NFL corner. He's good.
You lose. You're always going to lose players everywhere else, but the offensive line is kind of the one unit that or if I had to pick, like I said, that would be the one that I'd be most worried about. But you have a smart quarterback like Micah Alihado, who knows when to get rid of the football, but you just hope that the offensive line can open up enough pukas to get your run game going, because that was kind of difficult last year, where you're like, all right, everyone's going to anticipate a pass because you just can't run the ball at this point. But we'll see how it goes this year.
I wish I could sit here and push back on you, but I'll be honest, that's probably my biggest concern as well. I'm really excited to see what year 2 of this defense under Dennis Thurman is. I mean, you add some beef to the defensive line, you add some more edge rushers, some guys who can get home and make a few plays back there. You see young guys take another step on that side. You're really excited about that side of the ball. And Micah Alihado, he's great, but the thing that has always been concerning to me since I've moved out here and started watching the Rainbow Warriors with as much consistency as any other football team that I watch is the inability to get the run game going, is the offensive line's up and down performance, because I don't want to sit here and act like they don't have the ability to be good, because they do. And honestly, they have plenty of performances and plenty of stretches during games where I'm like, oh, wow, this group could actually do something pretty good. But kind of as you mentioned, a smaller group a lot of times that it makes the job a little bit more difficult. And that's not to say that we don't have as tough guys get on the offensive line, but at the end of the day, you do need a little bit more than just toughness. So curious to see how that shapes together. Excited because they do have returning experience, especially on the interior there, and I think that'll help out a lot. Curious what the tackle spots end up being. How does that shake out after losing your left tackle once again? And how does that shake out after we saw James Milavale get a ton of reps last year at right tackle? Is he going to be your answer there? That's now all of a sudden, by the way, that becomes your blind side, because you're going from a right-handed quarterback in Braden Shager, so your left, that's always how I think at least, to, your left tackle needs to protect his blind side, to now you got a left-handed quarterback in Micah Alihado, and this is me assuming that he's going to be QB1 and blah, 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 blah. He is. The right tackle needs to be very short up. So I'm curious to see how that goes, and I'm curious to see if the running game can add on just a little bit more, because we know that Micah can dish out the rock pretty darn well, and there are a lot of speedy guys on this team who can do it some damage when the ball gets into their hands in space. But can you add in the running game as well? That's what takes this team from, they can be 500, they can compete for a bowl, to, is this a dark horse Mountain West contender? Is it maybe more than that? Those are the questions we like to be asking once we get into the fall. Big question for that: how's the offensive line?
Yeah, and like I said, it kind of it helped thinking that, all right, I kind of had to suspect that, like we mentioned, the offensive line was our worry, but at the same time, you almost don't want that reassurance in that way. But to hear head coach Timmy Chang kind of say that's part of the, just because of the depth, and that's a huge thing, right? And linemen, they go down like. It almost sometimes feels like every other game. It's like, it's a tough position, there's a reason why they're always wearing like these massive knee braces and everything. So it's such a, it's a, just a position that just happens. Exactly.
They play through a lot of injuries as it is.
The offensive defensive line, you need to at least have a good amount of depth at the core, but nonetheless, like, they'll hopefully try to shore that up. Everyone get healthy by the time we head into fall camp. But for now, the spring is all PAL. Don't forget, Michael Lasquero will join us in hour number 2 to get his thoughts on just the overall spring and what he saw yesterday and all of his takeaways. We'll also hear from QB1 Micah Alihado a little later as well, but we do need to take a break.
I just noticed the same.
Oops. When we come back, we will talk some University of Hawai'i women's basketball, as the Rainbow Wahine locked up and had a wonderful senior night and get prepared they leave today actually to Henderson to get ready and have that double bye and don't play until Friday in the Big West Conference tournament. But we're going to kind of share all the good things that happened on Saturday senior night when we come back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. And oh no, I did it again. Thank you, Scott, for chiming in. It was like no sound, but
Ups.
So it was funny because and good thing before I told this story. So when we kind of did the show together, he welcomed me, but when you're in the studio and it's like Bobby's just his natural like ability and talent, right? Like I said, you can't debate with this guy. Like you could debate about Hawaiian food. Like I don't think he really ate Hawaiian food too much, but we could debate about Hawaiian food and he would probably win because he just had that commanding voice and presence. So it's funny because off air he would like welcome me to do the show, but once we got on air, it was and it wasn't him being intentionally trying to overpower me. It just came naturally to him once we were live, because then we would go to break and he'd be like, oh, feel free to, chime in. And I'm like, I'm trying, but it's hard when like his presence is just the way that it is. But he would always, like, when we would go to break, he would always like suggest, kind of maybe do this and do that and everything. So I just appreciated him so much. And I just wanted to retell the story because I was trying to tell it in the beginning segment and I was just a mess. So I'm holding back a little bit of the tears now, but yeah, when we did the show together, I can't remember how long it lasted, but it did end. It was after his morning show. So we went from 9 to 10, ironically. It was called Extra Point with Bobby Curran and Ku'ule Ugbayani, which is really cool. I wish I could have archives of it, just to kind of, although I already hate listening to myself, so I would probably still cringe listening back to it. But now that, everything has happened and us losing him, I really wish I had some of those things. But in that video that I was kind of showing you guys on our YouTube channel, and it just, I was telling him like, you're a legend, you welcomed me in, and he was so humble. He's like, I don't know about that. And then he was just saying, if it were up to him, we would still have that show, or we still would have had that show. And he just being the type of, I guess, status that he was in the sports talk industry, especially, and he was just always so welcoming to this girl that wanted to be on sports talk radio. So that was pretty cool. So I'm glad I could share the full story after we got the sound thing working again. So. But yeah, good thing I found that video. And like I said, I found it and realized I had it before we jumped on air to start the show. So I was already like emotional. So I couldn't talk through a lot of the things I wanted to say when we started the show, because it was just coming off of seeing that video. And I'm like, oh gosh, here comes the emotion. And then I came in
singing Hamilton, and then she really just started crying. It was a brutal, brutal start to the show, guys. But we got there eventually.
Eventually, we got there. And as I see, like, I don't know if you guys can see that I'm tearing up again. It's just a whole thing. I know, girls, right, man? Chicks.
I think a lot of people are finding themselves in a similar spot as you today, yesterday, though, and will as this week goes on, just because, kind of like you did mention, Bobby was a legend and is a legend, because what's the Sandlot phrase? Heroes are remembered, but legends never die. And I do feel that way. And it's funny because in that video I did get a chance to watch it with you real quick, and it was like, you did. You're like, oh, you're a legend. He really does say, he's like, oh, I don't know about that. I hope he does know that he is and was a legend here in Hawaii, and the time, the effort, the memories that he made with a lot of people, a lot of people do hold on to those for a long time. So I hope that he was able to take that. I hope that his family takes that. And I hope you beautiful people are able to hold on to your beautiful memories, whatever they may be as well, because that's what's important. It's why you're emotional. It's why we're all emotional about it. He was beloved, and for good reason.
You know what's crazy that I just realized?
I don't.
You guys, what is up with, which is just funny, and I mean this in the most endearing way possible. What is up with these like New York guys and being so awesome at covering Hawaii sports? I was thinking about this because Michael kind of shared like this older article that was on the Star Advertiser, and it was like back when Bobby, I think it said like in that article he was 40, and so it was way back like the KGU / was transitioned to KKEA and doing UH Sports, and then he also had a sports talk show with the New York Gym or something, and I'm like, wait a minute, 2 New York guys. And then I'm like, all right. And then now we have Mr. Paul Brecht, who's a New York guy too, and didn't necessarily study English, but mom's an
I was
English
gonna
teacher.
say,
Your parents
I've
have the
got
English
some
teacher. So I'm like,
English
Bobby
background.
was like his degree is in English. And just the way, even in UH's statement, Bobby engulfed himself into the culture here in Hawaii. I'm like, just like Paul. I'm like, whoa, this is a very weird, and now we're on KGU, Paul. This is a very weird, Twilight Zone-esque kind of thing going on right now.
Half the career Bobby had. If that's the case, and then I am a very lucky soul. I'll say that.
I'm like, I hope that means Paul will never leave us. Hopefully we can start going upward and stuff, and then Paul can stay here forever, just like Bobby. But I just thought that was so funny. He was a New York Giants fan, though.
It's all
Paul
right.
is donning his Jets stuff. I know, and I know the other station currently has another New York guy there. So I'm like, what is up with
It
these
is funny.
New York guys and the sports talk? And it's just kind of interesting. It was interesting to read that article because I'm like, this is kind of just ringing a lot of bells right now as we have our New York guy in here that does such a good job at covering Hawaii sports now and is on KGU. Just a full circle moment, but there you are, Paul. We have our New York guy in here.
Yeah, something like that. Like I said, I hope that I can be even half as successful as Bobby was. But like you mentioned, it does takes a special type of New Yorker to make their way out here. Because I will say, not all of us are Hawaii's cup of tea, and I don't know if Hawaii is all of our cup of tea. But I know that I love this place, and I know that Bobby loved this place more than anyone could possibly imagine. So. Love, and sending once again all of our aloha to Bobby and his family.
Yeah, family, friends. I know all the other sports media people have been saying awesome things on their social medias, and I'm sure on television and everything like that. So again, it's just wanted to kind of retell that story I tried to tell in the beginning of the show, but I was overcome with a bit too much emotion. But anyways, gonna take a break. We're gonna close out hour number 1 with just talking about still sticking on the positive note of just that awesome senior night that we saw where we celebrated.
Oh, and was it awesome?
Yeah, Paul Brecht saw his first Siva Samoa in person, which was pretty cool. So we're gonna talk about all of that when we come back to close out hour number 1 here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and streaming live on our YouTube channel. So be sure you guys go check it out and like and subscribe. And you can always watch or listen on demand at YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, I've just got a few minutes left in this first hour of the show. Coming up in hour number 2, we will get back into more University of Hawaii football conversation. We'll hear from QB1 Micah Alihado and what he had to say following the event yesterday. And also Michael Lasquero will join us to kind of get his overall takeaways of UH football. And as we are going to wait in anticipation now for the fall camp to start, which feels like it's a long time from now, but I feel like it's going to sneak up on us in no time, as that's what it always is every single year. As the first start of the summer seems to drag, and then it just ramps up and ramps up and ramps up until we are right there in the fall. So we'll get into that. We'll also talk more about UH basketball, of course, more on the games for the women and the men's side. And of course, the women back in action this Friday, have the double bye in the Big West Conference tournament. So they don't play until Friday, and a little bit of a different change from last year. I know Coach Beeman was asked about it after the game as well. And we had talked to Kelsey about it a couple of weeks ago, that being able to wrap up the regular season at home and in the fashion that they did, it's a little different than what had happened last year, where I know Coach Beeman had mentioned they were basically on the road for like 12 days before they even played a game in the Big West Conference tournament. And Kelsey had said, like, they don't want to make excuses, but I mean, just anyone who's traveled in general, and of course, if you have to travel for sports, that can tend to take a toll on you when you're not in the comfort of your home. And obviously they're not a professional team, so they're not flying in all and staying in all the luxurious hotels and have private gyms to go in and stuff like that, and private gyms to use, right? So it's just a very, commercial type of travel. But nonetheless, it was a fun senior night. Not only did Hawaii come out with the win, and we celebrated seniors in Lili Wahine Kapu, Meilani McBee, Kelsey Imai, Halle Birdsong, Brooklyn Brewers, and Mia Uhila. We saw Meilani McBee break the
Be Meilani McThree
break the all-time three-point record that was set by Amy Atwell, which was really cool. And you were right, Paul. I remember you mentioned it on Friday's show, I believe. I was basically in that first half. Every time like May took a shot, and there was a good crowd there, so you could hear everyone go, oh, and I'm like, shh, because I was actually even next to the Toms, and even Olivia Davies, because Olivia was doing the Spectrum broadcast. And so it was like Olivia, Tommy, and then Tommy's mom. And even they were standing up every time May would get the ball and shoot. And they were like, oh, I'm like, stop. We need to stop saying that. Fortunately, second half was able to get it done. But what a way to send out the seniors. And here is our group photo there by our Michael Lasquero of everybody. And obviously everyone donning all the lei. Very, very special in Hawaii. No one does senior night like Hawaii. And it's just, it's like graduation essentially, before their graduation, obviously. And like all the lei coming up to everyone, like covering people's faces, having to put it on their arms. I think the coolest thing, or one of the coolest things as well, and this is what makes Hawaii so special, or just the Polynesian culture also, is that you had Lili Wahine Kapu do the Siva Samoa dance, and our Michael Lasquero had actually texted our group chat for Paul, like, Paul, was that like your first time seeing that dance and all the money on the floor and everything like that?
Yes, it was. Because I had like, what is it? You have the haka and you have all of those and whatnot. I've never seen the ladies do anything similar. Now I was like, is Lily about to do the haka?
Which I've seen families, not here yet, but like at other schools, there, they have some of them do the haka for some of the women's players. But no, that was like really, really cool, I thought, and seeing so much of the culture. And we got Scott chiming in that it was cool to see Deja was there. Yes, Deja and Jackie David were there, and I know a lot of people were giving them lei in the tunnel and everything. So just a full circle moment to see everything and to see the culture. Obviously, the main thing, they took care of business and they won.
Yes, of course.
They wanted to at least clinch that share of the Big West regular season title on Thursday, which they did. Win and beat CSUN, win it outright, number 1 seed, all of that stuff, and was able to just enjoy senior night the way that they did and close it out. So it was a good night on Saturday.
It could not have asked for a better night, I think. And yes, shout out to Deja and Jackie, and I'm shout out to the fans, by the way, for showing their aloha for them too. It was something that I was hoping to see, just because I understand they didn't finish out the year with the program, but they did give so much to these fans. So it's cool to see that. Even cooler to see the aloha shown to the 6 seniors who played throughout the night, all 6 of whom who scored. Like you said, we'll talk more about this in the second hour, but overall, top to bottom, what a night, what an emotional night, what an awesome night. And I think my face still hurts from the amount of smiling that I did throughout Saturday. So I could not have asked for another senior night that was, I mean, better. It was incredible. And now, like Coach Beeman said, they're not done yet.
Not done yet. And one more thing to wrap this up, and then we got to take a break, obviously. But like Hallie Birdsong getting the start in the second half, Coach Beeman saying like that was always the plan because she deserved that, and she did. And she continued to own CSUN, got a score in that game as well. So that was pretty cool.
I'm trying to think if that's 3 straight. I think that's 3 straight games. It's at least 3 of the last 4 that Hallie has scored that they've played against CSUN. So it's a consistent thing.
CSUN. And Lily Wahine Kapu, I believe, she was the one that got the assist or the pass to Meilani McBee for the 3. And I believe it was Lily that inbounded that ball that got to Hallie or something, or passed it. I think she stole it and passed it to Hallie.
Go back and check.
I actually have the video from Scott Mason. We're going to check it out during the break. But we got to take a break. We'll be back for hour number 2 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel like we do every Monday. So thank you guys for tuning in, watching on demand, or however you, take us in. So we appreciate all of you guys that tune in and listen. You can either chime in if you have something to say on the YouTube live chat, or you can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. We'll get into more University of Hawai'i football conversation coming up in a little bit, and we'll let you hear from QB1 Micah Alihado in about 5 minutes. And Michael Lasquero will also join us and get his overall assessment of what he took away from yesterday's spring event and just the practices that he was able to attend during this spring ball and festivities as we get prepared and head into the fall that will be here in no time. Before we get into some other stuff, though, I want to just kind of make some quick notes of some NFL deals that have been going on, actually starting like over the weekend, but some of the major ones. The Seahawks, they have Sam Darnold now.
From one former Jets quarterback to another.
The former Vikings starter is finalizing, or has finalized the deal. 3 years, $100.5 million with $55 million guaranteed and $37.5 million in year number 1. So the Seahawks get Sam Darnold. Something that happened over the weekend, but I want to make sure we mention it, is that Browns defensive end Myles Garrett is staying in Cleveland. 4 years, $204.8 million contract, which made him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, with $122.8 million guaranteed and an average salary of $40 million. Most recently coming down, though, Paul's team, the New York Jets, have a new quarterback in Justin Fields. So from the Bears to the Steelers and now to the Jets, Justin Fields now with, the New York Jets. So that was pretty cool. So those are kind of like your major, or some of the things that kind of just recently transpired for all of our NFL fans. But appreciate a lot of you guys that are maybe just tuning in or just jumping in on our YouTube. We were talking extensively in hour number 1, and as I mentioned, at least my emotions are a little bit more in check this time around. But for all of our new listeners, I just want to obviously mention a little bit of what we talked about in the first hour. Most people know by now, the passing of legendary broadcaster Bobby Curran. Passed away yesterday at the age of 69, and want to send all of our heartfelt condolences and love and aloha, especially to his wife, Joe McGarry, and his sons, Max and Finn. And when you talk about like me feeling like anti-status, I mean, I remember like seeing those kids when they were just like kids, like before teenagers. I think like they used to kind of like be in the studio and stuff and at games, and now they're like full, like grown. They're not necessarily adults yet, but grown boys, right? Like, but Bobby definitely was a staple, and I was singing his praises in the first hour, and I'll say it again. Like, he was just next level talent that I didn't really recognize, because when we first started working together, I was so new to just sports talk radio and sports
take
talk.
It for granted.
Yeah, sports talk in general, right? Like, I mentioned this before, where when I started, like, fresh out of college, 21 years old in this industry, it was before sports talk was super mainstream like it is now. You see it all over, like, you hear it, you see it on social media, you know, ESPN National, Fox Sports, all of these big brands, that's their programming. Majority of their time is like this sports talk and debate shows and everything like that, right? So, but I didn't really realize it at the time, like how talented he was and how easy it seemed to come to Bobby, because like he would just have the newspaper. I mean, it would naturally come because he would call games, right? Like, just like when we're covering games, like we can talk about it because we're there, we're watching it from start to finish. But just the way he articulated everything, and I mentioned this before, the words he used were half the time I'm like, if we went to break, I'm like, what does that mean?
What are you talking
What does that
about?
mean? What does that word mean? But just all of these things that he would bring to sports radio, and just the command that he had, you could just feel it over the airwaves and everything. It was just such a true talent that he could just have an opinion about everything and believe in that opinion so strongly that you always felt like you were going to lose the debate. And I thought that was just such a pure like talent to have, where he may not have even been like right a lot of the time. That's why I joked in the first hour, like we could debate about soccer or some kind of super local food, squid luau, and he would probably make me feel like I lost the debate because he would just know the words to say and be so commanding that I'm like, I don't get it. But that's what made him so good and easy to listen to on the radio, because he had that presence that you just felt when you're listening to your radio. And I was just so appreciative, like I said, to really be engulfed in this and come into this industry when he was still in his prime, very much in his prime, long before he started having his health struggles. And then just when he got a little older and didn't command the same on the airwaves, but it was just so phenomenal to watch at the time when I think back to it. And then I just cannot stop telling the story of how supportive he was to me when it seemed like I might be interested in kind of doing this, right? Like a woman on the radio here, it just wasn't a thing, to be part of sports talk radio. Fortunately, it's a thing in other parts of the country now. But when I was doing this, maybe like, I don't know, first cracked the airwaves, maybe like 10 years ago or something. And he was always super supportive, had our show together. I kind of showed you guys a clip of when I gave him a lay and ran into him when he called his last basketball game, and how he was just, if it was up to me, we'd still have our show together. And I think that goes a long way, that he was that accepting. And even when I started to work for a competing brand, or when I was gonna leave, he was like just so supportive, because he was just, like, I'm just happy for you that you're gonna get this opportunity. Like, he called me when he found out that it got around, right? Like when I was leaving after I put in my 2 weeks, and he called me to ask like, oh, wow, are you leaving? Like, where are you going? Like, what is this? And I kind of told him all the opportunities that I felt was going to be here at Hawaii Sports Radio Network. And he was just completely like, I'm so happy for you, like you deserve this opportunity and all of that stuff. And I'm just like, oh, the legend is telling me this. Like, it's just, it's phenomenal. And I appreciate him so much for being so supportive.
It's important to have those people in the industry a lot of times. We talk about that kind of stuff a lot. And, representation is big, but also representation doesn't get there unless you have some people willing to open the door a little bit. Because the fact of the matter is, this is a closed-off industry in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So to open the door like that to you, I know I am incredibly thankful, because it opened the door for me here. And in a lot of ways, it opens the door for a lot of people going forward and whatnot. And that's just part of what his legacy is continuing the love for sports, for athletics, for UH athletics more specifically, and just continuing the conversation about it. Even if it wasn't necessarily going to be on his show, he was just passionate about continuing the conversation. So hopefully we're doing the same thing today and continuing the conversation about his legacy, because he very much so deserves it. And like Kuz mentioned a few times, if you guys have memories that you remember his voice as the soundtrack for, or you ever had a chance to meet him, chat with him, have a meal with him, whatever it may be, leave a comment in the YouTube section, text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. And let's keep this conversation going. It's what Bobby enjoyed doing, is talking sports. That's what we're here to do today.
And definitely what he enjoyed doing was talking about University of Hawai'i football. That's for sure. As we know, UH wrapped up their spring practices. That just went by so fast, that first segment. I said we would get to the Micah interview in like 5 minutes, but at this point it's like, all right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will change it up and talk some University of Hawai'i football. We will hear from QB1 Micah Alihado and what he had to say following yesterday's spring event. And then Michael Lasquero will join us as well to get his thoughts on spring ball when we come back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht. Michael Lasquero will join us in just a little bit as we switch over to our UH football conversation as the Rainbow Warriors wrapped up their spring festivities yesterday at Warrior Pow Hana, in which a lot of fans were just treated to a lot of the drills that they were doing, and they had a lot of fan events and everything, but it wasn't a spring game. As we know, they kind of got rid of the whole spring game itself and branding it as a spring game a couple of years ago, but they still went through some 11 on 11 and some drills and working in some of the fan engagement stuff at that, but nonetheless went through the full spring camp and training. And as we mentioned, starting quarterback Micah Alihado is kind of going into this offseason as it would be his starting job to lose. Unfortunately, Hawaii able to bring in a solid backup in Luke Weaver, who has the collegiate experience and did really well at the JUCO level. But now it's all over and we get ready to head into the fall. But before we kind of talk a little bit more about all of that and get Michael Lasquero's takeaways, here is what quarterback Micah Alihado had to say following spring ball.
All right, Micah, spring event, last one of the year or season. What are your thoughts from today?
It was great, seeing how far we've come from the beginning of spring and getting all the new guys and the transfers in and seeing how well they've adapted the offense has been great. And, just going into the offseason, I think, the connections are getting stronger on the team. And, I think you see how strong our defense is going to be this year. And on offense, we're going to match the energy this year. And offseason will be great for us.
How comfortable are you so far in the system and
Yeah, I'm super comfortable. I mean, Coach Timmy makes it so easy for us quarterbacks. He just lays it out a lot for us, and he just tries to simplify it for us. And, that helps a lot, and it helps with a great O-line that can hold up at the line and hold up to give me time to get the ball out quick. And it helps to have great receivers to make plays with the ball, and it doesn't have to be a perfect ball. So I'm so comfortable with all of them, and, it's going to be great for us.
What do you think of the Jackson Harris catch?
Dude, he's been making plays the whole spring, and, it's going to show in August. More time, games happen, and all of that. Him and Brandon Boyd have been making plays the whole spring, and Jackson we got him out the portal. I say it's the biggest steal out of the portal for us this year.
Talk about the defense because they were forcing a lot of turnovers.
They've been good. I mean, dude, seeing last year and seeing how how they are this year, man, it'd be really good for us. And the defense is gonna be really solid, and I can count on the defense. I know we're going to go in the game and count on the defense. And, Coach Thurman and what he's sending out and all the different kind of things he's throwing at us during the game, it's great for our offense because, to be honest, it's probably one of the most difficult things we'll see all year. And, just seeing where he comes from and, seeing his scheme and all of those things is great for us.
You mentioned Jackson from the portal, but one guy that also came back from the portal was Nick Senecal. He looks a bit bigger, and he caught a long one from you. Talk about him in the slot.
It's been great. Him coming back is so good for us. He's good, he got the height, he has the size on him and the speed, and the playmaking ability with his hand, with the ball in his hands. So, getting the ball is going to be great, and it's going to be good for our offense.
Going into fall camp now, what are some of the adjustments or some of the things that you feel has to happen?
Yeah, no, I mean, just being able to just get better at the small things for us, and just being able to be perfect at the most littlest things that we have to do, obtaining to our job. We believe if every person on the field, the 111, does their job, then we're going to be unstoppable coming August.
How was the playing in the elements today?
I mean, it's fun. I mean, I think Wednesday was the first time it rained super hard on us, and it was crazy, but, it's a blessing to have this kind of weather, Not other places, it's like 30 degrees with snow right now, so I'd rather be here than the snow.
Seems like there's a more concerted effort to run the ball at the running backs today. Your Bishop Gorman mate, Cam Barthel looked tough. Thanks to Tana Michaela. Talk about the running game.
Yeah, based off last year, we knew we had to get the run game going this year, and that's been a big emphasis for us this spring. And, Coach Arsenal is dialing up a lot of good plays for our run game and, getting our O-line in the best positions for us to be successful. And the running backs back there, you got Landon, Cam, Christian Vaughn, all those guys, David Cordell, the list goes on. It's going to be great getting the ball in their hands because with the ball in their hands, they all can make plays.
Last question for me. You're firmly QB1. You got a chance to go meet the fans today, sign autographs as well as what are your thoughts on that as well as the brotherhood? Because you see the guys coming here, they love you.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, everybody loves each other on this team. And it's fun to interact with the fans, right? We need them come in August, and we play for them technically. Without fans, we probably won't be playing. So, it's love to interact with the fans and, just wanting them to buy into us, buying into August, and buying into, going into August having an exciting season for us.
And that was University of Hawai'i football quarterback Micah Alihado following their spring event yesterday and just wrapping up their entire spring ball. And someone who's been able to go out there for a couple of practices and was out there for the entirety of the event, and kind of our go-to football guy for HSRN. You can you keep up with him for all of the extensive coverage, not just for University of Hawai'i football, but also keeping track of a lot of the local players and high school football. So be sure you guys follow him. But joining us now is our Michael Lasquero. Michael, hello. How are you? Are you with us?
I am with you guys. I am doing great. The Rams had signed a very great receiver away from this certain team from New York, since I guess we're the theme of New York today. But the Rainbow Warriors football wrapped up their spring game, and it poured, but good vibes all around.
Good vibes all around. All right. Want to get your assessment though, in general, with everything that you've been able to see, not only yesterday, obviously even though they go through some sets and do the 11-on-11, they hold back a lot, as we know, but you can still kind of see some of the talent, and they weren't tackling or anything yesterday. But you can see we saw some Micah missiles yesterday as well, and the defense kind of stepping up. I know Hana I believe he had, or at least what I saw, had an interception. But let's start with kind of your assessment throughout spring of these quarterbacks and just the quarterback room. Like how we said, we have Micah Alihado, you have Luke Weaver backing it up, and then you have JJ Nielsen and Caleb Freeman in there. So what was your overall assessments with this quarterback room in this spring?
Well, I think it's pretty much the obvious, right? Micah Alejado is awesome, and we are blessed to have him for the next 4 years, hopefully. But yeah, Micah's definitely QB1. I know Paul's trying to give the political answer in the show, but no, Micah is QB1. Paul, don't even play with that. But Luke Weaver is kind of a good guy too. He's a much bigger guy, and definitely what we see in college football is you're gonna need to have multiple quarterbacks come in throughout the season. I mean, heck, when Tua Tagovailoa won the national championship, he was the backup to Jalen Hurts. We saw last year with Texas with the Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. You're gonna need multiple guys to contribute. So I don't really think I view anything as a quote unquote competition, but it's just, hey, there's certain guys on our roster that do different things, and at the quarterback position, Luke Weaver does provide a certain height and different stature. So that's going to be good. He's also a very intelligent guy. So I like him as the backup because we are going to be utilizing more formations that I'm pretty sure will not be in the first edition of the next NCAA college football game, which is good because that will kind of catch teams off guard. Staying with the quarterback position, we have JJ Nielsen. He's doing a phenomenal job. Balancing school. He did take classes, I believe, last year at a different institution just so he could be an early graduate to be here with both programs in baseball in the spring. He did participate in one of the fan events, and he threw a touchdown pass to a fan on the first play. So that's no rep, that's no practice. So I like to see that from a young guy where he's able to connect with a random guy from the stands on the first play for a touchdown. And Caleb Freeman, I think he's going to be a solid guy in the quarterback room. He does look a little bit bigger and thicker, so I think that's a credit to our program and our weight conditioning and strength and training. So that looks good. I wish I had some photos on their YouTube to show, because he was pretty scrawny coming in last year, but he looks a little bit more filler. And yeah, I know you asked with the quarterbacks, but I guess I'll defer back to you guys.
Yeah, I wanted to stick with the offense for just a little bit more, because another unit that I'm really excited about is the receivers, right? A ton of receivers. We had some kind of test out the transfer portal, but end up coming back, and then we have new guys coming in. So what's, who is maybe someone that is going under the radar or fans don't know about yet, but we could potentially see do big things, and just overall what you've seen from this receiving core so far?
Yeah, I don't know if there's actually anybody under the radar, because Micah definitely let it fly yesterday's practice for the fans to see. I think Nick Senecal caught a bomb from him. Kel Crowdis, who is looking a bit more stronger too. He's getting involved in some of the screen game blocking. So I know last year when he came in, he was kind of that deep threat that you kind of knew they were going to pass. But now that he's involved in the blocking schemes, I think that kind of shows versatility. Jackson Harris from Stanford, we saw Micah talk about him. He caught a really nice ball leaping in the end zone. So, he's a guy that I got a chance to talk to him during the portal period. That's very confident in his abilities, and he showed it yesterday, and that's what you want from the receiver position. But with yesterday's event being a fan event, I do want to talk about the offensive philosophy and the types of things that is going on. Because if I don't know if you guys were hearing in my media veil with Coach Timmy and with Micah, I specifically asked about the run game in both of those media veils, and I do think there's gonna be a concerted effort. I don't know if you could see that from your little roofed parking structure and you didn't brave the elements like the rest of us.
Hey, I was still recovering from a really long day on Saturday. It's like hopping on the airplane, coming back, making it time for women's basketball. It was a whole thing. So I was nicely perched up. That's what I got you for, Michael. You're the football guy. So I got you out there covering it in all its intents. What are some of the things, though? We talk about the offense, though. What is some of your assessment? And Paul and I were singing his praises in hour number 1 with just a Dennis Thurman there being the leader of this defense and what he has been able to put together, what he put together last year, and looking at going ahead into this season. So maybe share a little bit of what has been some of your takeaways when we talk about the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, I'll circle back to the defense. I do kind of want to wrap up the offensive stuff because there is one thing I do want to point out that's my number one takeaway, and it's more schematic and it's more offensive identity. And the reason why I bring it up is because this was a fan event which was open to the public. So I was actually even surprised that a lot of these plays and sets and formations were on display. Now I've seen some of them during the spring practices. Of course, with the severity of not severity, but because of the nature of credential, you don't want to be saying stuff too much that could, like give away like company secrets, right?
Yeah, and during the regular practices, it's the no video, no cell phone rule. But obviously, for a spring event, you're not going to enforce that rule, so you're not going to do all of the stuff. Yeah.
Yes. So we did see a lot of different looks, right? I think last year with Coach Dan Morrison coming in as that QB consultant, for Braden Shager, the team and the offensive philosophy kind of reverted back to the old school whack days of June Jones with the 4 wide. And I think in today's modern offenses and modern defenses, you're not going to be able to do that. I mean, in the whack, we were playing against weaker competition and you could survive off that. But we saw in the Georgia game what happens when you go against strong competition. So we saw some 2-back sets, I think the former UNLV offensive coordinator Brennan Marion, I think that's his first name. He kind of pioneered 2-back sets because that's you kind of see that being successful. So we saw some 2-back sets and 20 personnel. We have some 11 personnel with 1 running back and 1 tight end. I think the tight end position is back, and there's multiple types of tight ends, right? There's tight ends that are on the line. Next to the offensive line, there's tight ends that are off the line, kind of like in that H-back role where they can kind of go in motion. And then we also even saw some 12 personnel where you have some 2 tight end sets. So I think Coach Chang mentioned that, hey, we're kind of hurting on the offensive line in our depth, right? They're missing 2 starters at the guards in Kuape Hopa and Zen Sotelo, as well as a spot starter at center in Ethan Spencer, I believe his name is. So and Micah said Coach Arsenal is drawing up some plays, and you kind of need to adapt as a team to these modern defenses, which we're going to segue into because our defense is lights out, right? I at least saw maybe 10 turnovers total that they forced, and it was phenomenal. There's I think having Verdell Edwards back from injury it kind of, because he was also team captain the not last year but the year before, and he also led the team in past breakups. But this is, Cam Stone, don't get me wrong, he is, to me, he is a day 2 NFL draft talent, but he's probably not going to be drafted on day 2 because of his size at 5'9", and like 191 pounds. But for Dell Edwards, he's 6'2", 215. So you might not see him in the stat sheet, or you might not see him get some plays or some highlights, because he is just a presence on the boundary at 6'2", 215. Last year he was on the East-West Shrine Bowl watch list, and guys that have actual true NFL potential get invited to that. So I think he's going to be phenomenal. Our secondary is going to be great. Kilanahi Mendiola Jensen, wearing number 8. I think he had a pick on Michael Alejado in that first hour. Elijah Palmer had 2 in the red zone. Julian Juju Smith also got in there. And even some of the local guys in the lower in the depth chart, they were making plays at safety, like Ezekiel Rodriguez out of Mililani, Reese Weber out of Kailua and Kalaheo, and Jordan Fetu out of Mililani. So our secondary is stacked. Our front is great. I do like our 2 grad transfers on the interior defensive line. I thought those guys really are filling the void, because we lost a lot of guys in the interior defensive tackle. I like Luther McCoy, number 52, grad student from Minnesota, and number 79, that is DeJohn Benton, a grad student from New Mexico. I also did see Jamar Sakona out there in between the hashes when they were doing their personal grouping like drills warm up. So that's good to see for a guy that kind of got hurt towards the end of the last year.
And there we go. Michael Lasquero, just our full recap of the spring ball. Before we go to break and let you go, Michael, though, do you have any final thoughts on wrapping up for this spring and maybe what Hawaii needs to do or figure out when we start coming up to the fall camp?
I think Coach Chang said, one reason for spring is that they can get kind of wrap it up and go back in the weight room, get stronger and whatnot. But I think the biggest thing right now is if they can get like as quick clarity on some of the players that they have that are pending their NCAA waiver. So I'm talking about some of these JUCO players that play JUCO in Elijah Robinson, defensive end, Logan Taylor, linebacker, Sebo Brown, cornerback, and punter Lucas Boro, because especially for Logan Taylor at linebacker and Elijah Robinson, those are some positions that we are kind of stacked in at that spot. So as much as you want them to still be on the team because they are great, they are good players, especially Elijah Robinson, he has a chance to probably make the UFL. You are kind of taking a roster spot. I know that defensive end spot is stacked, right? Not only you have Elijah potentially back, but you have Kyle Kana from the transfer portal. You have Jackie Johnson, Tariq Jones, Wyndon Huuli, Lester Langofuana, who I know other teams are trying to poach from us. So that's just going to be something that is to monitor, because those are great players. But I am, for Sebo Brown, I am more confident in our cornerback room with Verdell leading that. But also I think Devin King and Jaheim Wilson-Jones is going to be kind of solid. And then again, punter position, we are kind of loaded at specialists. So you're going to have to kind of settle in and divvy up the reps so you can get ready for the season.
All right. And we're going to wait in anticipation for the season to come, because it's like, oh, spring is already coming gone and now we're here. All right. Well, we do need to take a break. Again, thank you, Michael, for joining us to share your football insight. And I know you guys follow us on social media at High Sports Radio, and Michael on his Twitter at Michael Lasquero, because he's got a full evening, I guess, tonight and tomorrow, as he will be out covering the Rainbow Wahine volleyball spring matches. So going over from football spring back to Manoa for the women's volleyball spring matches, which we will tell you guys about when we come back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
What do you say?
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht, and we just heard from our Michael Lasquero chiming in remotely to give us his thoughts on University of Hawai'i football. But thank you guys for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 on HSRN and HawaiiSportsRadio.com and streaming live as we are right now on our YouTube channel. So be sure you guys like and subscribe, and we appreciate you guys for consuming any of our stuff on any platform that you can get, whether it's on our podcast or anything, or live, of course. And that is why you are the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. Well, we're talking about spring football. Also going on, though, is a spring women's volleyball matches for the University of Hawai'i. They are in action tonight and tomorrow night, and to host defending Big 12 champs Arizona State. So if you guys want to head over there, I think tickets are like a lot cheaper too. I think it's only like $8 or something for the spring matches. So out at the Simplify Arena at Stan Sheriff Center, if you want to get an early look at this Rainbow Wahine volleyball squad. Again, Arizona State tonight and tomorrow, and then they will host Wisconsin on Tuesday, March 25th. And then they will play Wisconsin also again, but this time on Kauai on Wednesday, March 26th at Kauai High School, where they will also host a free keiki clinic as well. So that's pretty cool. Those are your spring festivities going on for the Rainbow Wahine volleyball team, which, hey, that's pretty awesome. So we'll be out. I think I'll probably be able to check it out tonight too with Hawaii and Arizona State, because I'm curious, right? I mean, we talk a lot about men's volleyball, but it's nice to have a sprinkle of women's volleyball matches here in between everything, especially early on in the week when it feels like, oh, there's no UH sports or anything. There we go. We can go to the Stan Sheriff Center and watch some Rainbow Wahine volleyball. Also, of course, happening, though, season still going for the Rainbow Wahine basketball team. We were talking a little bit about a senior night and all the festivities to close out hour number one, as the Rainbow Wahine able to come up with a convincing win, or I think convincing is an understatement at this point, over CSUN on senior night, 62-36 over the Matadors, in which we saw a bunch of stuff happen, including one of the seniors, Melanie McBee, breaking the three-point record. We saw Hallie Birdsong get in and start the second half, another senior, and be able to score a couple of points as well against the team she seems to dominate in CSUN, that I appreciate Paul for kind of pointing out there when it comes to Hallie. But again, the seniors were celebrated. Paul and the other media members got a chance to catch up with a couple of the seniors following that game that we want to make sure we let you guys hear from. So we will hear from Lili Wahine Kapu and also Melanie McBee. But let's start first with senior Lili Wahine Kapu.
Feeling greeting so many people after celebrating your senior night with a win tonight?
I expect nothing less when living in Hawaii. But I'm so super grateful for everyone that came out tonight, and my family for supporting me for the past 22 years. It's just a lot of love right now in the air.
Can you say how long you worked on the dance and like what that was like to prepare for?
Tori helped me choreograph that dance, and my sister helped me. But yeah, it was just a last minute thing. Like, I had 1 week to prepare, and I expected my family to come out and support me, so it made me feel better doing the dance, because I'm not a dancer.
As far as just what are you going to remember the most, and just to summarize it all up?
I'm going to remember the crowd the most, and today I had like two periods when I got chills, like just throughout my body. Just the crowd was very loud, and it was getting me a little emotional, so yeah.
Could you talk about the pass to Melanie to break the record, and can you also talk about seeing Hallie score?
Yeah, I told May I was going to get her one, and she trailed me, and I saw her, no one was guarding her, so I behind the back passed to her. And she hit that. That's when I got chills, when she hit that. Yeah.
And that was University of Hawai'i women's basketball senior guard Lili Wahine Kapu following their senior night game on Saturday. Now here's fellow senior Meilani McBee, and it starts with her reaction to breaking the program's all-time three-point record.
Oh, it was exciting. I'm just glad I was able to do it on home court. So my teammates trusted me to shoot the ball, and so that's what I did tonight. I shot the ball.
Were you feeling it all tight, just last home game or this one, just wanting to get it over with? Or
No, I wasn't. I don't think I was feeling tight. Beeman's always said, let the game come naturally to me, so that's what I kind of did the rest of the way. I know my shots weren't falling in the first half, so I was like, just let the game come to me, and so it happened when it needed to happen.
As far as just what you're gonna just remember the most about just your time in Hawaii?
All of this, like, there's no place like Hawaii. No place does it like Hawaii, so I'm very grateful and I'm very blessed that I got to play basketball here.
Thank you, man.
And that was Meilani McBee, again, Hawaii celebrating 6 seniors, Lili Wahine Kapu, Meilani McBee, Kelsey Imai, Hallie Birdsong, Brooklyn Ruers, and Mia Uhila. And we kind of shared some photos and stuff from that senior night. And that's why I had to represent today and wear my, it's kind of like a combo shirt of the Lili Wahine Kapu and Jovi Le Fotu t-shirt, which is a pretty cool design of like the mountainscape and everything. So this is one of their shirts that I remembered. I'm like, I got to rep a women's basketball shirt when we do our YouTube stream this morning. So it's pretty cool. But no, fun stuff. And yeah, I mean, what a game, though, fans were treated to as well.
It was, from start to finish, a really, really fun night. Nena Orji also had a pretty good game. Like, for the most part, CSUN got dominated, but Nena was actually really, really good. So that was cool to see, where she was somebody else who kind of came in with this group, the opportunity for her to close out her career, because CSUN will not be going to the Big West tournament. So she closes out her career kind of where it started, right? That was a really cool moment as well. And obviously Hawaii, as they always do, because they rock, they recognize the other seniors too, get a nice ovation there. And then after the game, the wonderful, wonderful celebration after what started. I mean, the celebration felt like it started in the second half, right?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Hallie Birdsong gets the start to begin the second half. And I was a little curious about how they might go about that with 6 seniors. You see a lot of times on senior night, they'll start all the seniors no matter what it is, blah, blah, blah. But with 6, well, you have one too many to start. So I was not sure how they'd go about it. It was awesome to see that she still got an opportunity to begin one of the halves. And like you mentioned, she scores there. All 6 seniors score. Mia Ohila knocks down a couple of threes. Meilani McBee becomes the all-time leader in three-pointers made. Lili Wahine Kapu moved into, I think, 7th place all-time. Maybe it was 6th place all-time on the three-point list. Like, she is very quietly moving her way up. Kelsey Imai is 1 assist away from being in the top 5 ever as well. So just a historic night into celebrating a crew that deserves to be celebrated, has done so much winning. They clinch an outright Big West title, no sharing. Like Beeman said on Thursday, I don't like sharing.
Nope.
They don't have to share with anybody now. They are the number 1 team throughout the Big West regular season. They did a phenomenal job throughout the year, but now the job's not finished. Now they go to Henderson. Now they have an opportunity. They left today. They have an opportunity to get back to the NCAA tournament, and that is what the focus has been ever since their journey to a three-peat ended last season in the semifinals. Pretty sure they're pretty motivated to not let that happen again.
And still have a long way to go again. Hopefully, as Coach Beeman had said a couple of weeks ago, hopefully playing until April is the goal for this team, and especially for this senior class. And I want to, before we go to break, though, I want Paul, for you to touch on it a little bit, because for those that we talk about men's volleyball a lot, and how Charlie would always tell us, like, oh, well, yeah, we're going to miss the senior class. I'm talking about last year, but we're just reloading.
Oh.
And it's kind of similar with the women's basketball program, where we are going to miss this senior class, and it's riddled with talent. But unfortunately, you only get so much eligibility. But nonetheless, I mean, if people feel like, well, one, you guys already see like the talent that, like, Victoria Tamilo coming in, and some of the other young ladies that are new to this. I mean, Kira May is kind of finding her groove as well, but just can't get on the court because you have all of the talent that's there, especially at that guard spot. But if there was any concern with especially the guard position when it comes to the University of Hawaii women's basketball team. Paul, just kind of share a little bit about like that's maybe not the case because Hawaii and Coach Beeman, they already have quite the set and group of young women coming in to fill in for the departing seniors.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head where you almost bring up men's volleyball, where you lose so much talent from this year's class, and that is undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to bring in a ton of talent once again. It starts with a Bailey, I think it's Flavel or Flavel, something along those lines. I need to find exactly what it is, but she is outstanding. She is a 3-level scorer. If you haven't gotten an opportunity to go look her up, look up her highlights at the FIBA World Cup, the U17 World Cup. I think she actually played with Retoria Tamilo during that, so a little previous chemistry and camaraderie with the star freshman center already there. And then she's not the only one. You look down the list, you see Kiara Curtis, who she's a fun player. She can pass it, almost a spunky. I'm not going to say she's like Kelsey Imai, but you think she could almost slot into that role. And when you look, they signed 5 players in this class, and it doesn't mean that they're just alone in that. They are going to continue to recruit. We'll see them likely hit some transfer portal folks, as we saw with Brooklyn Brewers a couple of seasons ago. We saw with Mia Uhila. So this is not the only thing, but you do have 5 very talented freshmen who will also be coming in to replace, one of the most successful classes in UH history in terms of a senior group. You're not going to find many more talented groups and successful when it comes to winning than the one that UH is losing right now. So definitely needed an impressive class to bring in recruiting-wise. And in my opinion, they certainly have that going into 2025.
All right, we need to step aside for our final break of this Monday morning show. So we'll be right back to close it out here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Dial Electric Supply is
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ule Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel as we do this in every single Monday. So thank you guys for tuning in, or you can listen on demand. We opened up the show and talked sporadically throughout the show, and we'll close out the show with it as well. Just talking about Bobby Curran, the legendary broadcaster here in Hawaii for the over 3 decades, and called a ton of UH football and men's basketball games. Specifically, and just has been on radio by way of New York and coming over here, going to the University of Hawaii, and all of our aloha and condolences go out to especially his wife, Joe McGarry, and then also his sons, Finn and Max, and to everybody else that was close and got a chance to know Bobby. And I've seen the tributes continue to pour in from the media members that we all got to know him and work alongside him. And I kind of told the stories, extensive stories earlier about my interactions with him during my time at the other company as well before I came into this one, and just reiterating just how supportive he was when I had decided to leave for essentially a competing brand, and knowing that this was an opportunity for me to get on the radio and have my own show and everything like that. And he was just always supportive and excited for me, and really gave me the encouragement and reassurance and tell me like, oh yeah, you deserve this. And it's unfortunate that we have to watch this happen for you somewhere else, because again, he like welcomed me in to do a 1 hour show together with him following his morning show. And just to hear those words from someone who is at the top of their game, and for them to have that much support for you, it was just like, it went a long way. And I think that's why I got, and will continue to get a little emotional, because it's just when you have that type of support from somebody who is as like in that prestige and recognized for the talent that he is, but support like this is, just this girl that wants to talk sports on the radio. It goes a long way. I want to, one of your comments or text that came in, if Bobby would say it would take an act of loaves and fishes, you knew Hawaii wasn't doing well. There were a lot of sayings, and I wish I could remember them all, but there were some things that he would say that you kind of were like, oh, you kind of already knew what certain terms meant, and like he would use all the time, but they were so unique. You're like, oh, okay. And you kind of just knew what it was. Another texter said, saw Bobby at the Cal playing blackjack, parlay, and go UH touchdown. Good luck, our Vegas texter. Yes, you could catch him when we would have our UNLV games. You could catch him at the blackjack table, and it was like, he was just a fun time. I might have to.
It's a New York thing.
Might have to
I
go.
love blackjack. Like, I love blackjack.
I know Bobby liked his red wine, so I guess I got to go out and get some red wine and have a toast for Mr. Bobby Curran today. I kind of shared this earlier, but we didn't have the sound for everyone that's just kind of tuning in on our YouTube channel. It's like the last time I kind of saw him, and then when he did his final broadcast for UH. But I shared this earlier, and he was so gracious, and this was just me telling him, like, you're a legend, and he's like, well, I don't know about that, and just being so humbled, and just saying if it were up to him, we would still have a show together and all of that stuff, but I was just singing his praises of him just being so supportive of me the entire time that I was there. Like I said, a fresh, just never been in sports radio or whatever, this 21-year-old, like, first day on the job, and then I meet Bobby Curran and Robert Kikaula and everything like that, but always so supportive. And yeah, I'm, like I said, appreciate what he contributed to sports in Hawaii and all of the calls that he had, and I hope people will continue to kind of share all of their memories as well.
Yeah, and we've hit on this point a few times, and I'll continue to hit on it. We were very, very blessed to get the time that we did with him. I know that this is something that a lot of people in sports media, they don't talk about it a ton, but like, it is a really big commitment. And especially to be good in this field, it takes a commitment not just from you, but from your family, from the people around you to share you. I mean, this is a man who shared himself in all hours, whether it was talking about sports, broadcasting sports, just being at sporting events, and to do that, it takes a really special man, sure, but it also takes a really special family around him to support him. So kind of as we've said a few times, and I'll continue to say it, sending all of our aloha to his family, just because you never feel like you get enough time. And then you get into this field and you feel like you get even less time. So I hope that they were able to enjoy the time that they got, and they are able to appreciate all the stories that other people are able to tell, because he was so gracious with his time to others, because he was so often willing to chat sports with a lot of people who are very, very passionate about UH athletics and just Hawaii sports in general. And, as a fellow New Yorker, just it always breaks my heart whenever we lose one of us. So, I'll have a glass of red wine tonight for Bobby as well, even if I'm more of a white guy.
I was going to say, whoa, you're kind of a white wine drinker, so you're going to have a red wine too. And then, like I mentioned, I wish it would be pretty cool. Like, I wish if like you had started here in Hawaii when Bobby was like at the top of his game, because it was just incredible to watch. And when I was there in studio or beside him in the press box, and then of course for all of the fans that were able to listen to him, he kind of like delivered sports in just a very unique way that was very captivating. And I think that's probably the word that I will use to describe just how he was on the radio when he was peak Bobby Curran. It was just, you were captivated. It was similar. It felt similar to Colin Cowherd, where you're just like, you might disagree with like half the things he says.
Love me or hate me, you watched.
Yeah, exactly. You keep listening. You're just tuned in because of just his delivery was so phenomenal. But yeah, again, this beginning of this sports or this calendar year has been a tough one for the sports broadcast community, losing Don Robbs, another legend, and then Lad Panis that was recently, and then also, of course, most recently yesterday, Bobby Curran at the age of 69 after some health struggles and whatnot. But I know a lot of people got to see him just a couple of days ago, so that's good that he was able to enjoy everyone's company. But we just about have to wrap things up. But again, appreciate you guys for listening and watching. But for now, we gotta go. So for Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in. It's been Wake Up in the Den. Bye!
Home of the Los Angeles